Hello, welcome. I'm back again with my dear friend Alexandra. Thank you so much for being here and thank you for having this conversation with me. So, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. Hi, everyone. As Brenda mentioned, I'm Alexandra. I'm the oldest of five children. So shout out to all the big sisters out there. You're killing it. And I just finished my undergrad degree at the University of Ottawa, studying health sciences. And now I'm at Ottawa Public Health as a project officer, exactly where with my studies and doing something that I love. So I guess that's a bit about me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think it's so cool that you get to work in the healthcare field and right after university. Adulting is definitely such a different balancing act, but we're all learning, right? So, my first question is going to be in regards to our theme. As everyone knows, our theme for today is overcoming the fear of vulnerability. So, we wanted to hear from Alexandra, why do people fear vulnerability?
Right. That's a really big question because even though we don't often talk about it, we know that everybody can relate, right? And I think it's funny because us as humans, we have this strange idea that we're the only ones that go through the difficulties, that go through the struggles, and that we think that like we're the only ones in that position, right? And that's what vulnerability tears down, is that thought. But unfortunately, there's stigma and stereotypes that reinforce that fear of being vulnerable, which is so unfortunate. I know, like, personally as myself, of course, growing up, especially being a girl, like that, being vulnerable, like you were expected to be strong and be a leader, or like sometimes, yes, you were like that stereotype of being emotional, but
Yeah.
it wasn't true vulnerability, right? And I think we're never taught that, and we don't learn that, so we really don't know how to properly be vulnerable.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Vulnerability is hard even for, I guess females who are seen to be people who are more vulnerable. I think I thought I was a super vulnerable person, but when it comes to really revealing your insecurities and sharing with the world things you're struggling and the weaknesses, it's scary for everybody. I don't think there's anybody who's like, yep, I'm vulnerable, I'm great, I'm doing good. It's like a fun time, but it's such a necessary part of building connections with other people and building connections with God and just living, right? Yeah, so can you talk to us a little bit about what is the power of vulnerability and how can we embrace that?
Right. And so I think being vulnerable opens up just such a huge window of communication. And like you mentioned about relationships, you will see all of your relationships prosper through vulnerability, right? And I'm not saying like go pick a random person and lay your whole life story out, right? There's definitely boundaries to vulnerability and steps to take to vulnerability, but you can pick a person you trust. You can be honest and slowly unravel things and unravel layers to your vulnerability. And I think it can be learned and it can be done. And like I said, pick a person you trust. And one of my favorite professors and authors, Dr. Robin Hanley Defoe, she has this great quote where she says, "I can do hard things." And that seems very simple, right? But we often think like that's too challenging.
Yeah.
Being resilient is too challenging. Being vulnerable is too challenging, right? But we can do those things. We innately are resilient, and we have that within us. And personally speaking, like I see all throughout the Bible how Jesus was vulnerable with not only his disciples, but with his everyday encounters, with the people he healed, with the people he taught, right? So that's a great example of vulnerability, and we can do hard things. That's the best thing I can say to anybody. You can do it. You can be vulnerable. Pick someone you trust and take that first step.
Exactly. And like that first step matters. However small it is, it still matters and it's still progress towards that. So yeah, I'm super encouraged. Like, I think we often try to avoid hard things, but reminding us that we can do hard things is so important. This is a can-do attitude, right? So thank you so much for taking time to share with us and letting us know what you think about vulnerability and a little bit about your experience. So yeah, have a great rest of your Sabbath, guys.
Thank you, Brenda.